Signs and symptoms of burnout. You may notice that there's a lack of joy, you're feeling disconnected in your job, you may have a hard time getting up in the morning, you may be sleeping not enough, or maybe sleeping even too much. You might not feel connected to your social circle, you're not engaging with friends and family in the way that you used to. You maybe notice that you're feeling a lack of creativity, whether in your personal life or at work with the tasks that you're being given, and life just overall feels like it's passing you by. So if that's happening for you, you may be experiencing burnout. And sometimes burnout can lead into some more serious conditions such as anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed, and you just really notice that you can't turn your brain off, do the work that you normally would be able to do, and at the speed you would normally be able to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a case example of a client that I've worked with in the past, and I want you to let me know if this resonates with you. I think it's really helpful to be able to conceptualize what a typical burnout person might look like, and you might realize that a lot of people, maybe even yourself, are experiencing burnout. There's a woman, and she's in her 30s, and she's employed as a social worker. After being in the caring profession for some time, due to the barriers of lack of supportive management, low pay, lack of available resources, and the consistent clients that just don't seem to improve, she notices that she struggles to sleep well, and often on the weekends, she is unable to not think about work and the upcoming stress. In the mornings of the work week, she struggles to wake up on time and often feels like she's just too tired to be around friends and family. She often will tease that on Sunday she has a case of the Sunday scaries because she knows that the upcoming week is going to be very stressful and tiring for her. She knows deep down that she enjoys her job, but she just can't feel like she ever can catch up. So I wanted to give this example because maybe there's some parts in her that you could resonate with, or maybe people around you are noticing some of those symptomologies. And so what we're trying to do here is highlight that awareness of what it might be like to be burnt out. We're going to move into what it means to have like the cycle of burnout. Usually burnout happens in 3 phases, and the first phase would be compassion fatigue, the second being rust out, and the third one being burnt out. Compassion fatigue is when you are emotionally and physically exhausted, and that leads into a diminished ability to empathize or feel compassion for others. So even for myself as a clinical counselor, I can notice that sometimes, even though I really care about my clients and I really want them to be doing well, I often maybe can't hold space for them in the way that I ideally would. Sometimes that compassion fatigue just is a warning sign that things are just taking up too much time and energy and I need to slow down and return to a great state of health and balance. Second stage would be rust out. So this is where you maybe have transitioned to a stage of apathy. Apathy is when you can't really feel like you can connect and really care about the things that you normally would. And this bleeds out into many different areas of your life. So for example, maybe a friend would ask you to hang out, and you might easily be able to say, no, I don't really want to. You might not feel really interested in doing that. Some other ways that apathy could show up in one's life is that, say there's some big plans that you normally would be excited for, but you're just not as excited to do them. So maybe there's some social plans coming up that you've been invited to and you don't really feel energized to go. Or maybe it's your birthday and you're just like, you could care less. And you're just this deep-rooted state of lack of engagement or emotional, connected, or feeling excited for the upcoming events or things in your life. So apathy can show up in personal and in your professional work. And then is the final stage of burnout, where you just can't engage in your life in the way that you used to overall. And again, it's some of those symptoms I mentioned earlier. So sleeping too much, not sleeping enough, feeling really tired, the cynicalness, and the pessimism as well. I like to bring up these types of different stages so that you can kind of maybe check in of where you're at, and so that you know maybe how much more repair and healing and compassion for yourself that you would need to get back to that stage of balance. Let's look a little bit deeper at this cycle. So again, in this cycle, you might notice that you're feeling fatigued all the time. And I want to point out there's a difference between feeling tired and fatigued. Both are responses to stressors, but tiredness goes away with the right amount of rest and recuperation, while fatigue is more enduring. When you're emotionally exhausted, it feels like no amount of food, sleep, or relaxation could help you to feel any better. The next one would be is maybe you're not taking care of yourself. So these changes are often the first and most prominent signs of emotional burnout. Even for myself, and when I check in with myself, if I notice that I am sleeping 9 hours a night and I'm even having a nap in the afternoon and I'm still feeling tired, that shows me as someone in the helping profession that maybe I need to spend a little bit more time on my well-being. So, people who feel emotionally exhausted often experience a lack of appetite and a lack of restful sleep. And in severe cases, some people even feel so drained that they stop showering, exercising, or even brushing their teeth. The next one would be is that you're noticing maybe that your performance is decreasing. Burnout syndrome has a negative correlation with the ability to solve problems. Because emotional burnout is a lengthy process, it can be difficult to tell exactly when your performance began to deteriorate. Looking at it in the long run can help you to determine whether or not you are just affected by a temporary blockage or if you're already experiencing emotional exhaustion. The next one being that you're feeling really sensitive. And being sensitive isn't a bad thing. Sensitivity just means you're really aware of your emotions and the emotions of others. But when you neglect your mental health and fail to meet your emotional needs, your mind struggles to work as well as it once did. This may manifest as a lack of emotional control, such as behaving aggressively and impulsively. When you're emotionally exhausted, you're more prone to feeling overwhelmed, and you become more sensitive and irritated. You may feel underappreciated, experience frustration, pessimism, guilt, and anger, as well as feelings of emptiness and dread. And this may result in an inappropriate and insensitive behavior towards yourself and others. And overall, you may notice that you're feeling down. A lack of motivation is to be expected even in the early stages of burnout. Over time, symptoms of anxiety and depression, such as lack of energy, lack of enthusiasm, frustration, boredom, and apathy and avoidant behavior, may develop if the problem is left untreated. And you may notice that your social life is kind of absent. Being emotionally burned out may cause you to have no energy or desire to spend time with your loved ones. You may tend to withdraw from others and replace human contact by consuming alcohol or other unhelpful behaviors. Researchers have found that social withdrawal and isolation are among the worst consequences of poor mental health and causing a lot of people to suffer alone. Another aspect that you may experience is feeling hopeless. Emotional burnout usually gives way to feeling despair, emptiness, and detachment. You spend all of your time and energy concentrating over the things you need to do and end up leaving none of it for yourself and your well-being. You start to feel unfulfilled by the things that used to give your life meaning, and you find it hard to feel any sort of pleasure in the work by it anymore because you feel that nothing you do will matter in the end. So, I wanted to check back in and do a bit of a reflection on some of the materials we've covered so far. Do any of these signs or symptoms resonate with you or with anyone that you know? Which symptoms and situations ring the most true for you? And I want you to really take note of these things that you're noticing in yourself, because the first step towards healing is having the awareness of what's happening.